poll. How many of you have either heard or used Vagrant or Salt? So you all used Vagrant before, so excellent. So I won't spend too much time, installing Vagrant's virtues there. What about Salt? How many of you have used Salt? Okay, so a few hands here and there. So what I'd like to talk about is the combination of using Vagrant as your way of configuring your development environment, and using Salt to complete the configuration and manage multiple Vagrant instances remotely. So this is so Chef and Puppet are well supported by Vagrant already, so you probably already know that. But Salt is a newer system, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Given that I have only 5 minutes, it's going to be 100,000 feet, and so.
Could you pull the mic?
Yeah. So can you hear? Sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. If you don't know what Vagrant is, it allows you to isolate your development environment. It uses VirtualBox as its VM, brings it up real fast. So it's to virtual machines what Git was to source code control systems. So I won't spend too much time installing Vagrant. I'm presuming most of you are pretty familiar with this. It's just straightforward. Just set it up. So where the simplistic setup of say an Apache server on your VM on your VirtualBox machine is just simply set up the configuration. It's a very simplified Vagrant file, and this is what you would have done. So now what I'll show you is the version that you would use using Salt. But before I get in, just a quick, very high level overview of what Salt is. Very simple. Salt is a deployment configuration system. It works as there's a Salt master, although the version I'll be showing you is a masterless deployment, and a Salt and Salt minions, which are these Vagrant instances to which you can then deploy your setup. So the reason, so why Salt versus say Chef or Puppet? In my case, when I was as a developer, my product was built. Is being built in Python. I built all my consulting work. I use Python for it. And Salt made a natural fit. Was a natural fit for the way I would think about doing development. I found although Salt is relatively new, it's evolving much more rapidly than say Chef and Puppet. It made a good fit for my model of development that was very Python specific. Since I understood Python well, it made it easy for me to to understand what Salt was doing when I didn't necessarily have to get into the source code to understand what it is. So, Salt is open source, by the way. Vagrant now comes in the early days. It was a little more complicated to use Salt with Vagrant directly, but Vagrant now comes with a plugin. It's very simple, just a simple install plugin install Vagrant Salt, and you're done, and that's it. So that installs the plugin. Now the only other things you need to do is to set up your Salt environment, and that's actually for a very basic installation. And you can get much more complicated than this in actual development. I don't have time to obviously show you this at this time. You can do much more work, and you can replicate your production Salt deployment on your Vagrant instance very easily. Very simple, just to create. So you need to create a couple of directories, and in this case, since all I'm doing is installing an Apache server on this Vagrant machine, that's it. Two SLS files. And I'll show you the format of these. They're quite easy to use, and especially if you're coming from a Python background, you'll find that particularly easy. There's a little bit of Ruby that you need to get through. So I think a lot of you are already familiar with Ruby, so it's quite easy. The additions to the Vagrant file for Salt this is just that stuff that you put inside your Vagrant file. Add these synced folders. That's it. And then provision this thing. So provision the Salt server, masterless Salt server itself. So the Salt minion file, in this case, really trivial. I'm using a masterless install, which is where I don't need a master. It'll configure itself. The top file and the Apache file these are the equivalent of Chef recipes, I would guess. So they're called Salt states. So the stall.sage file is a very simple, I think it's a YAML-like.
Last 30 seconds.
Yeah. So YAML-like thing. So you use these two, and and it just gets installed, and that's how you set up your this thing. So I think I timed it well. Information on Vagrant Up. There's a lovely little blog post on Quora that describes this, and it's a starting point for a much deeper this thing. In fact, I started off here. In fact, most of my stuff is from this blog. Just check it out, and it will give you a much more detailed introduction into using Salt. So if you've not used Salt before, give it a try. It's quite easy to use, and with Vagrant, you might find it quite convenient.